There are moments in life when you feel stuck, caught between who you used to be and who you hope to become. You may feel the pressure building inside you, the tension of change pushing at the walls of your comfort zone. And at times you might wonder why growth has to be so painful. Why every step toward becoming a better version of yourself feels like a struggle against something unseen. Perhaps you've had days when everything seemed too tight, too limiting, as if life had wrapped you in a cocoon you didn't ask for. You could see glimpses of who you wanted to be, yet you couldn't reach it. You could hear the whisper of new beginnings, yet you felt too weak to break through. And in those quiet moments, you may have asked yourself, why does transformation hurt this much? If you've ever felt that way, you're not alone. Today's story holds a simple but powerful message, one that has shaped countless lives through its quiet truth. It's a story about a tiny creature, fragile yet determined, who teaches us something profound about the nature of change and the purpose behind our struggles. Stay with this story until the end, because its lesson may just shift the way you look at your challenges, your discomfort, and the seasons of transformation you are walking through. Long before the butterfly ever touched the sky, it began as a small caterpillar living on the edge of a quiet meadow. It spent its days inching along leaves, moving slowly, observing the world from the ground. The other creatures around it seemed confident in their roles. Birds soared with certainty. Ants marched with purpose. Even the breeze knew exactly where it wanted to go. But the little caterpillar often felt unsure of itself, sensing that it was meant for something more, yet unable to define what that more truly was. As the days passed, a subtle restlessness grew inside it. It wasn't dissatisfaction. It was a gentle awareness that its life on the leaf was only the beginning. But the caterpillar was small, easily discouraged, and afraid of change. It didn't understand why it felt this inner pull or what it was being called toward. It only knew that staying the same felt increasingly uncomfortable, as though life itself was nudging it forward. One morning, guided by an instinct it couldn't explain, the caterpillar climbed higher than it ever had. The familiar world below grew distant as it reached a quiet branch bathed in soft sunlight. There, something deep within urged it to begin weaving threads around its small body. It didn't fully grasp the purpose, but it obeyed the inner voice, creating layer after layer until the world disappeared behind a shell of silk. Inside the cocoon, darkness embraced it. Silence settled over everything. The caterpillar had no idea what would come next. All it knew was that it was now in a place between what it had been and what it might become. A place where most growth stories begin. Inside the cocoon, time moved differently. Hours felt like days, and days felt like seasons. The little caterpillar, now suspended in darkness, began to sense subtle changes stirring within. Its body tightened, stretched, reshaped in ways it couldn't understand. Fear crept in. Was something going wrong? Was this the end or the beginning of something it wasn't ready for? In that fragile uncertainty, a gentle presence seemed to fill the silence. It wasn't a voice in the ordinary sense. It was more like a calm whisper echoing through the tension, a wisdom woven into the very fabric of life. Whether it came from nature, instinct, or something deeper, it felt like a mentor speaking from within the process itself. The presence said nothing directly, yet its meaning was unmistakable. Do not fight the struggle. It is shaping you. These words weren't spoken aloud, but the caterpillar could feel their truth. Every tightness, every tremor, every moment of discomfort carried a purpose. The cocoon was not a prison, it was a teacher. Still, the process grew more challenging. The cocoon pressed harder against its forming wings, as though resistance itself had been placed there intentionally. And in those moments, that quiet inner mentor continued to guide. Push, press, grow stronger. It was a strange kind of teaching, one that offered no instructions, no explanations, only the assurance that strength could only emerge through struggle. For the first time, the small creature understood. The force working against it was not there to stop its transformation, but to prepare it. And so, embraced by darkness and guided by an unseen wisdom, the caterpillar began to trust the process, unaware of the extraordinary future waiting on the other side. The day came when the cocoon tightened more than ever before. What had once felt like a protective shell now pressed against the small creature with an unforgiving firmness. The caterpillar, now halfway transformed, could sense that remaining inside was no longer an option. Something within urged it outward, toward a world it had never seen but somehow knew it was destined to reach. Gathering its strength, it pushed against the walls of the cocoon. They didn't budge. The pressure resisted every attempt, almost mocking its fragile efforts. But the instinct to break free grew stronger. Slowly, trembling with exhaustion, it tried again. A tiny crack formed, barely noticeable, but enough to remind it that progress, however small, was still progress. Yet the struggle was brutal. Every movement drained its energy. Every push felt like lifting a mountain. Doubt seeped in. Why was this so difficult? Why couldn't the transformation simply complete itself without this painful fight? For a moment, the creature wondered if it should stop altogether, if maybe staying inside was safer, less exhausting, and far more familiar. But something deeper answered those fears, a quiet realization rising from its own experience. Nothing new is ever born without effort. And so, with trembling resolve, it continued. As it pushed harder, a painful truth became obvious. The cocoon was deliberately narrow, not by accident, but by design. Its tightness was the very thing forcing the creature's wings to grow stronger. Without resistance, those wings would remain weak, unable to carry it into the sky. The struggle was not a barrier. It was the final stage of preparation. Still, the battle was far from over. Hours passed, maybe longer. The creature pressed, paused, caught its breath, and pressed again. Every attempt made the crack a little wider. Every burst of energy taught its forming wings how to endure. In this exhaustive rhythm of effort and rest, it discovered something profound about resilience. Strength is not built in leaps, but in small, persistent pushes. Outside the cocoon, the world waited unknowingly. The wind carried the scent of blooming flowers. Sunlight warmed the surface of the branch. Nature was ready to welcome a butterfly, but only when the butterfly was ready to meet the world. Inside, the creature fought its final battle. With one decisive push, the cocoon tore open. Light rushed in, overwhelming and brilliant. Fresh air touched its fragile wings, still soft, still untested. It emerged slowly, trembling, exhausted, but free. It wasn't ready to fly yet. Its wings needed time to expand, to strengthen, to fill with life. But it had done the hardest part. It had broken through. As it hung onto the branch, letting its wings unfold, it realized something essential. If someone had opened the cocoon for it, if the struggle had been removed, it would have emerged weak and incapable of flight. The very challenge it had resented was the one thing that allowed it to rise. The test had been painful. The struggle had been relentless. But without them, the transformation would have been incomplete. As the butterfly rested on the branch, wings still unfolding, a quiet clarity settled around it. Like a truth it had carried all along but could finally understand. The struggle inside the cocoon had not been a punishment, nor an obstacle meant to break it. It was a necessary passage, a refining fire that shaped what it was becoming. The creature realized that the resistance that had felt unbearable was, in fact, the force that strengthened its wings. Without the pressure, without the push, without the exhausting effort to break free, it would never have learned how to rise above the ground it once crawled upon. Transformation was never meant to be gentle. It was meant to be effective. And as this truth settled in, another understanding emerged. No one could do the struggle for it. If someone had cut open the cocoon out of kindness, the butterfly would have stepped into the world unprepared, wings weak, unable to survive the very life it was made for. Help delivered too soon, comfort given too quickly, would have stolen its strength before it even had a chance to grow. In that realization lay a powerful message, one that echoes far beyond the branch, far beyond the meadow, into the hearts of people everywhere. In our own lives, we often wish for easier paths, quicker breakthroughs, or someone to remove the weight pressing against us. Yet, the very challenges we resist are often the ones shaping us for what comes next. Growth requires tension, purpose requires preparation, and transformation requires a season of struggle that cannot be skipped. In real life, too, we encounter moments that feel tight and overwhelming. Days when situations close in around us, when progress is slow, when change feels painful. But just like the butterfly, we are not being crushed, we are being formed. The pressure we feel is often the sign that something new is emerging within us. The butterfly understood that its struggle had meaning, and so do ours. Every challenge can become a stage of strengthening. Every difficulty can build wings strong enough for flight. And when we push through the resistance that once frightened us, we step into a version of ourselves we never imagined we could become. As the butterfly finally lifted its wings toward the sun, a gentle breeze carried it upward. The world that once seemed distant and unreachable now opened wide before it. Endless fields, drifting clouds, the quiet rhythm of the wind itself. Everything that had once felt impossible suddenly became a part of its new reality. The struggle it had endured was no longer a memory of pain, but a foundation of strength, a reminder that it had earned its place in the sky. In watching its first flight, one truth became beautifully clear. Every season of difficulty holds within it the seeds of transformation. The very moments that feel like endings are often sacred beginnings. The pressures that leave us breathless may be the forces building our capacity to rise. Life has its own cocoons, those seasons where everything feels tight, uncertain, and overwhelming. You might carry questions that seem unanswered, challenges that feel unfair, or obstacles that demand more of you than you think you can give. Yet, even in those moments, something inside you is shifting, strengthening, preparing you for a future far greater than your current struggle suggests. Do not despise the process. Do not rush your growth, and do not fear the resistance pressing around you. Just as the butterfly discovered, the narrow places are not designed to trap you, but to prepare you. Your struggle is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence that transformation is at work. When the time comes, and it will, you will look back and understand that every push, every tear, every moment of doubt was shaping the wings you will one day use to rise. And when you finally step into the life waiting beyond your cocoon, You will soar with a strength forged from everything you once thought would break you. If this story stirred something within you, share it with someone who may be facing their own season of struggle. A single story can remind a heart that transformation is possible. And if you'd like to hear more inspiring journeys like this, consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps these messages reach those who need encouragement the most. Stay connected, stay inspired, and let's continue growing together, one story at a time.